In TV today, we have Professor Ravi Chaturvedi, an eminent cricket writer, columnist, author, commentator who has been covering cricket from 1961. He has also authored a book on World Cup cricket. And this being the year of World Cup cricket, we are going to talk about cricket and its matters. Sir, welcome to TV.
Thank you, Mr. Ramraj. You said a lot of things about me. I don't think they are all fit very much into my personality. All that I am and what I will be always, a great cricket lover, a follower of the game. This is a great game which has given me a lot. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. So now this is the year of the World Cup and the World Cup is going to start on May 30th. But over a period of time, almost 58 years, you have almost travelled with the way the cricket has grown in India and abroad. So in this scenario today, cricket has moved away from a gentleman's game to more a carnival or a festival of gadgets. We have a sneakometer, a stump camera, an umpire vision camera and so many gadgets bringing so many live scenes to the audiences on TV. So what are your views on the changes that have come about in cricket, sir?
You see, as you very rightly mentioned about the various gadgets which have come into cricket, but I think it is not only the gadgets, it also includes the changes which have occurred in the apparel or the dresses of the players, also umpires, all those changes are also part of the change that we have witnessed over the years in cricket, starting from 1961 when I started covering cricket for the media. Now, the first thing that we observed on the ground, if you look at the pictures that are available on the internet about the World Cup matches, from 83 or even if you look at the test cricket in 1960s or much earlier, I mean starting in 1877 when the test cricket started in Melbourne between Australia and England on 16th of March. Well, the very discernible thing is the disappearance of the coat of the umpires, which started right from the beginning and during the 1992 World Cup stage in Australia and New Zealand, that we didn't find the umpires wearing the coat. That was number one. Number two, the sanctity of cricket was associated with the white clothing. That is, the players wore that white clothes and the umpires also had a white coat on their body. But I think this sanctity it did not sound very good. It's sacrosanct to the cricket establishment. And the colored clothing came in with the umpires and also with the players, much more shining colors. Every team was wearing different hue of apparel or the clothing for the World Cup matches in 1992. So these were the things. The other thing happened was the ground realities also changed. To cater to the bigger crowds which are coming into mega events of cricket like the World Cup, the sizes of the stadia also increased, and in fact the media facilities also increased. Let me add, I mean, if you ask me, the 61 match which I covered my first test at Kanpur in 1961, you will be surprised to know that there was a small wooden box out of which it was written Akashvani, All India Radio. And only two people could sit inside, one commentator and one scorer. So one fellow has to sit outside. So those were the meager facilities, and today you have air-conditioned commentary boxes. That's another change as far as the media is concerned. Then the other thing that occurred was that to help the umpire on the field, the decisions, there were doubtful decisions. But hats off to the cricket establishment, and also, I mean, that is where the spectators also come into being. That is, once the umpire raised his finger, it's like a judgment. All that you have to do is to walk out, and players accepted it in good spirit. There were certain doubtful decisions, there's no doubt about it. I may also add here, yes, at certain places there were problems. It happened in Bombay in 1969 when one of the commentators said that the ball was away from the batsman, it didn't have the edge, and the stands were ablaze in Brabant Stadium at that time. In West Indies, there are many cases where doubtful decisions, people did not accept, and bottle throwing, the stands up in a blaze, and also even the police was called to quell the so-called rebellious elements in the stands in the West Indies. So these were also part of the cricketing world which was going on, and maybe I mean, if you ask me as a true cricket lover, I will say only one thing, that do you raise your finger against a judgment? Here what maybe the cricket administrator thought, the stakes were very high. At that time the money was, so much of money was not into cricket. Now there is a lot of money in cricket. The stakes are very high now. The gentleman's cricket has moved away from there, and since the stakes are high, the money is so much there at stake. Therefore they thought, why not, let's have some gadgets so that the doubtful decisions are referred to a third umpire who is sitting outside with all the modern gadgets for replay, and so that a very conclusive decision could be given. So that's how the Commentator and all these things came up. Not only that, even in the media box, if you look, the worm, the Manhattan chart and all that, that also become because of the availability of the modern gadgets that the media is able to fall back upon to substantiate other points of view, to give a much more totality, much more comprehensive picture of the progress of the game at the various stages. So these are very, I would say that these are very welcome things as far as the coverage of cricket is concerned. But I have one concern only on this. This was a gentleman's game, and whatever happened on the field, we accepted in a good spirit. Now with the things where you are questioning the decision of the umpire, I am only asking one basic question. That basic question is, are the gadgets also giving a very conclusive decision? Even now there are decisions where the fingers are still raised. They are not very conclusive, and therefore what is that we have gained? I agree that maybe 99% the decisions have been very conclusive, but even then there is a one minute. After all, a machine is a machine. So therefore, doing away, now not having a faith in the umpire, in the human being, you are having a trust in a machine more than any human being. This is what pains me.
Sir, as you rightly pointed out, even now certain inconclusive decisions, even with especially when it comes to LBW decisions, after referring to the machine, there is a line saying the final call is with the umpire. So so you can have the ultimate call with the umpire. So what do you say about that?
That is what that is what they say. I mean, ultimately, even if when everything is conclusively proved, it is the umpire on the field who either does like this or he does like this. So you are ultimately falling back upon the human element. So if you look at the totality of the picture, this is what I have been saying. This is the essence of my saying, that since you fall back ultimately on the man who is on the field, so therefore all these, they have made it very complicated. Number two, you see, it's good to have all these things, but by doing all this, we are moving away from the letter and spirit, the sanctity of the game which was there. We have started questioning things like that. Now even the cricket administrators, the decisions that they take at times are very dubious. At one time they take a one side of stand, the other time they take another type of stand. Say for example, there are certain decisions which were taken in the last series. Say for example, if there is a riot or something. I am reminded of the bodyline series of 1932-33, when Douglas Jardine evolved what is known as bodyline bowling, using Larwood, Bose and Allen as the main weapon to target Don Bradman, because he was the run-making machine. So that, and they were able to put it across Australia. They were able to win the series, but at the cost of a lot of blood. I mean, that's part of the sanctity of the game. There is nearly a boiling point in the political scenario, in the political relationship between Australia and England. There was a situation where they thought they will break the diplomatic relations with Australia. But anyway, the things were, feelings were assuaged, the water was put and the things cooled down, and ultimately even MCC was not very happy with what Jardine did. So that these are all things. But when it comes, there are certain decisions have been taken by ICC. When I think of this situation, I mean, the decisions taken here were of a different type. So there is a differential decision taken by the cricket administrators, which is also not good for the game. There should be uniformity in its standard as far as decision making is concerned. Wherever the player is on the wrong side or the team is on the wrong side, there should be uniformity in the standard so that the sanctity of the game is retained.
So, under the circumstances, should we say, can we use technology for a limited purposes? Here I would like to get back to tennis and badminton, where the players, they question or challenge only decisions where the ball is, whether it's in or out. So similarly in cricket, like runouts, where there can be a clear decision on whether the bat is on the air or if it's really creased or if it's out. And should we use technology only for limited purposes so that you get back some faith on the umpire also?
No, I'll come back to the basic part of this question. You very rightly said that in run out you have to see the image. Now that is where the question comes. That shadow which is coming on the line, the crease, that you are in the crease or outside the crease. Still there is a doubt whether it is a shadow or whether it is the bat, the wood of the bat is still touching the ground. That shadow still remains there. The shadow of doubt still remains there. So I think the 100% surety that the decision is correct, even then there is a question mark. This is, as a man of science, I am saying it. So therefore, I mean, if you look at the total, the overall picture, I mean, you can't satisfy everyone. It's a very human nature. So cricket has lived with its own doubts and question marks, and it went along a long way. Even now, with all the gadgets and everything that you have, latest technology you are putting into it, latest scientific inputs you are putting into the game to arrive at a decision, still the question mark remains. That is the biggest issue that I am raising.
So now, because of these gadgets, as you said, technology is still raising questions. Does it put a lot of additional pressure both on the players on the one side and the umpires also, who are already constantly thinking of whether the decision will be questioned or not?
So the pressure is, yes, on both. But who is putting the pressure? It is the administrators and the technology who is putting the pressure. So why not cut out those who are putting pressure, let the game go on as it is going naturally. So that's the question.
So now again here, you're earlier talking about rioting and things like that. So with these gadgets, the spectators and the audiences, not only in the stadium, outside on television, get to hear comments from the players also, which can be very inciting. So under circumstances, how do we curb that?
You see, the self-discipline and restraint is a very important thing. I'll tell you a very classical example. The two greats were commentating together, Richie Benaud, the pair amongst my community, and again the legendary Sunil Gavaskar. So there was an exciting moment where the spectators, uproar went up in the stadium, and Richie was sitting with Sunil Gavaskar, and Gavaskar was commenting. So moment the crowd voices came up, Richie Benaud put his hand on Gavaskar's mouth. And Gavaskar was surprised what was happening. And as the noise was going down, the decibel level of the sound was going down, he took his hand slowly away from Gavaskar's mouth, and Gavaskar started. So at the end of it, Gavaskar asked Richie Benaud, why did you do it? He said, that was not your time, that was the time of the crowd. Once the crowd had their time, I took my hands away. So these are very human elements which are in the media coverage. So we should also subscribe to these things, that we are not, as a commentator, I am not the only one who's the spectators or the listeners sitting in their drawing rooms would like to listen. Maybe they like to listen what is happening on the ground also. Yet I like to make another point. Look, the commercialization has gone to the extent that moment the last ball is bowled or moment the first ball is to be bowled, the only few seconds before that the camera comes on the ground. Suppose there's something which has happened on the last ball, a very close run out, or there was a player clashed against another. If the spectators or the media people are able to watch what happened between two of them, that will give a better analysis of the picture what happened there. That is also an important component of the game of that day. But there is so much commercialization. In fact, if you ask me, the producer already says the last ball. That means moment the ball is bowled, please stop. 134 for 4, and that's the end of your. You have nothing to say after that. Similarly, when the ball is just to be delivered, you come in the picture. So these are things. I hope you'll agree with me. There is something in between the over that also needs to be covered, which let the spectators watch or let the viewers watch, and let those listening to the commentary hear what is happening on the 22 yards. That's very important.
Sir, again, as it is, the decibel level because of the spectator involvement is very high. So, unlike you take tennis, where when there is a serve, the umpire ensures the total silence and the players can focus. And along with this, we have other additional aspects of drum beaters, cheerleaders. So, there are more distractions on the ground. So, under the circumstances, how do the players manage it, and how do we get over, as you said, even gadgets, like previously when a ball is nicked, the umpire would like to listen to the nick if it is true. But today, even with these gadgets, do you think the umpire will be able to get, or even on the television replays, will be able to get those kinds of noises to come with the correct decision?
I'll take you back to earlier days. I will not talk about the gadgets. Excuse me. You see, the West Indies cricket or the Caribbean cricket is very different from the rest of the world. I mean, it's very colorful. I mean, people come to the ground in colorful clad dresses. They have all their musical instruments, drums, bugles, all sorts of things with them. And some of our masters, they are clad in a very peculiar dress. Somebody known as Lord, somebody known as Blah, given different names. And every ground has a personality of their own. They drive maybe on a bicycle which is well decorated and so on and so forth. And the people are quite, they always give vent to their thoughts and to their voices, wherever it is, whether it's an umpiring decision, whether it's a wrong stroke, all advices from outside will be there. I'll give you an example. Say, for example, if somebody dropped a catch, then somebody will shout from the stands, say, "Oh man, you got a cold." Yes, sir. I'll give you a classical example. The only history of Test cricket, there is one cricketer who was executed. That was Leslie Halton. He was a fast bowler of West Indies. Herman Griffith and Leslie Halton, they were the spearhead of the West Indies inning, early cricket, and they did get some victories for England, for West Indies also against England. Leslie Halton murdered his wife and he was hanged. I'll not go into why he was hanged and so on. There was a match in Jamaica where he was still to be hanged. The execution was still to be carried out. And there was a Jamaican batsman, Jack Holt. He didn't score much. And then on top of it, when West Indies came to field, he dropped a catch. So a banner went up in the stands which read, "Save Hilton, hang Holt." So these are some, the spectators also have a role. They write some beautiful banners, very catchy slogans. So let them also be part of the coverage rather than be, of course we are giving some coverage to them. But look, what a witty, banners that come up in the stands. That is because of their total involvement in the game. It's a very original thinking on the part of the spectators also. So when you come say noise, if the noise level or decibel level of the noise is to be measured in West Indies, then no umpire will be able to hear anything, nobody will be able to hear anything. Well, that's a part of their game. That's a natural way of their living. So that's what is manifested in the game. There is no reservation on their part. If they want to dance, they will dance on the field also. If they want to sing, they will sing. If they have to play on the bugle, they will play it. So that's it.
But when it comes to
then another thing I'll add. Look, if you look into the Australian cricket, Sydney, SCG, Sydney Cricket Ground, had a mold which is known as hill. In Adelaide also there is an area there is no stand, it is a hill. Particularly Sydney. Sydney was a notorious place. as far as the hill is concerned. Lot of drinking, thinking, troubling women. Don't think that in India only people will trouble women. There also, I've seen with my own eyes in all these places. Of course, they are no more there because they wanted to have more stands so that more people could come. So I mean, in stands, people do, they drink, they feel whatever they feel like, they give vent to their feeling. That's it. That's all. That's all.
But in now, as you said, these are all become stands, and they are packed stadiums. So in a packed stadium, it should be slightly different from that kind of a carnival. But this kind of a carnival, so how does it add up to the game? And
No, I think even if you look at the spectators, things have become more mechanical. They are not the way they used to be. I mean, their involvement was very different. I mean, these days they will come and watch the match for all 5 days of the test match, and then they will be doing an analysis which they will like to speak or give vent to their feelings about the situation or about a player. You did go wrong, you went wrong there, or you moved that thing wrongly, and things like that. But now even the spectators, they are more caught in the technicalities of the game rather than enjoying the niceties of the game. There is always an executiveness about the game. If I watched one stroke, which I haven't watched in my long 50 years of cricket media man, the executive late cut which Vijay Merchant made. I was watching as a 10-year-old boy in Delhi. I thought the ball was outside the off stump, and the Merchant, when he played the late cut, I thought it will go into the gloves of the wicketkeeper. Bat came down so late that it cut it and went above the heads of the slips for 4. That that finesse in a late cut I haven't seen in any batsman. And this, as a connoisseur of the game, I am still remember it, cherish it, and I am living with the memory of that great late cut which Vijay Merchant used to make.
So now, because of all
now my question is, I mean, this is my observation. How many spectators today will remember such thing? What great strokes Don Bradman made. What great strokes George Headley made. Why George Headley was called Black Bradman? A massive scoring player. How do they remember the grace of Frank Worrell? Do they remember the grace and the suppleness of David Gar's batting? Do they still remember Brian Lara? Oh, they are not only names. There was a part of cricket technique which was very different from the rest. That made them a player so different. That is what as a spectator who's involved deeply into the game, will remember even today. Is it happening today? I don't think so.
Yes, sir. Now, with these kinds of changes and the game itself changing from a gentleman to a lot of festivals and players getting very animated and things like that, where do we draw the line and how is it possible? Should we get back to the good old days of saying yes, whites and rules and regulations and make it more a game of technicality, and as a connoisseur who would love to see that kind of cricket? Will it come back? Is it possible?
I don't think. Look here. I have lived a long life. If I think that India or maybe the world can go back to 1937 when I was born, that's not possible. Over the years, the things change, the social values change. The social values which we have in 2019, we cannot take them back to 1937 because things were very different. The world was very different. A World War has already taken place. The clouds of Second World War were already hovering over the world. So the social chaos was there. The economic problems were there, which today is not there. So we cannot transplant that age which has gone bygone. Yes, can we sort of have a synthesis, a synergy in between what was good in the good olden times and also what is good in the present time? I think this amalgamation of the good of the past and the good of the present, which I think the present generation like me, I mean a generation like me represent, would be the better, not only for cricket, I think for the society as well.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your views on gadgets and cricket.
Thank you.
Thank you.